Can Nikola Jovic emerge as the key contributor on this year's Heat team? We look at his potential impact before we shimmy our way through our top 25 players list with a member of the 2006 championship roster on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Real GM Radio, here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. Have a great show for you today. We're going to continue our 25 of 25 series in a second, but we're talking Eurobasket around here, David. And honestly, look, I'm having a hard time watching Serbia in Eurobasket. They are dominating. They're crushing teams in this tournament. They beat Czechia 82-60 on Monday. And the reason I'm having a hard time watching them is I can't untie, like in my brain, watching Serbia play and the way that they play and the way that Nikola Jovic is being used. I can't untie that from while I'm watching them, wondering that's what it could look like if Miami didn't necessarily play to Nico's strengths, because I don't think that that's what you want to do. We like Nico around here. He's not the player who you construct a team around or a system around. But if they were to just play faster, if they were to play the way that Serbia plays, which easier said than done, they have Nikola Jovic obviously at the center of all of that. But if they were to just to find some of that stuff, I think it would obviously empower Nico within Miami system in a really important year for him. But I also think it would empower a lot of other players. But more than any of that, David, it would just be a lot of fun to watch, because watching this Serbia team play is so much fun. And the thing that really stands out to me in terms of how Nico fits into that is he is so good in transition. And I think we knew that because we've seen it in flashes in Miami. But it is a every game thing right now for Jovic at Serbia. It's every game. There is one transition play that just takes your breath away, whether it's a pass that Nico makes in transition or finishing a lob or finishing like a seal down low and finishing at the basket or whatever it might be. It is an every game thing where it's very clear that if the Heat were to play faster and play in the open court a little bit more, I think that Nico could emerge as maybe one of the better transition role players, right? He's not going to be Giannis, but one of the better transition role players in the league.
I think that's fair. I think we've seen that. I think pointing out those flashes is really important because we have seen Nico flourish in that role. What does he do best? He just grabs a rebound and goes and ignites those fast break opportunities. And we've seen his combination of skills and size be utilized effectively that way. And those brief spurts where he looks like such a great player and so impactful. And it's just been derailed by a number of different things that have happened over the course of his short career. But I'll tell you something. I think the difference with this year's squad and last year's is the lack of Jimmy Butler. And we know that he liked to play at a very slow, deliberate pace. That was just the nature of his game. Bully ball. He wants to get the ball, push it through the paint, try to get contact, and try to force something at the rim, or maybe, give and go, or try to dish it out to somebody around the three-point line. But with Nico, I think now that he has an opportunity, and with this roster being what it is, I think the roster is currently constructed is much better suited to play at a faster pace. And I think we're going to see that from both the starting lineup and the reserves, because I think you've got a number of players on the bench, Davion Mitchell, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, all those guys can push the pace, Pelle Larsson, etc. Like, I'm not sure exactly how those rotations will shake up, and we'll see that by the time training camp and the preseason starts. But moreover, I think there's an approach there that can work and will work more effectively this season than it has in the past. And so I think they're going to find a way. They have to. I think Nico is too important. I keep coming back to one thing, is that Nico is the ultimate X factor for this season because his ceiling is so high, because he does have such a great deal of versatility in terms of his offensive repertoire, and whether or not he can continue to be more consistent and solid defensively and earn the playing time that we know Eric Spoelstra wants to give him as a result, then he's going to be able to show those flourishes much more consistently. We're going to see those moments where he's just going to be an impactful player.
So he only played 23 minutes in that game against Czechia. They blew him
Sure.
out again. It was 27-5 after the first quarter. Jokic played like 18 minutes the entire game. They didn't need their best guys, but he played 23 minutes in that game, 10 points and 7 rebounds. Pretty good for 23 minutes. I thought he was really good in the first quarter, and there's a play I want to highlight here in a second. He did go 0 for 3 from three-point range.
Yeah.
And while that would, in Miami, sort of just kill his impact for a night, in Serbia, it doesn't.
Yeah.
He's still able to do enough other things that when the three ball isn't going in, it's kind of fine. Like, so he's still able to do the stuff in transition. He's still a part of the offense. He's still a cog of the offense. And I love watching Serbia's offense. I know that Eric Spoelstra has a relationship with the Serbian head coach. And I hope that, frankly, that Spo is just stealing plays from the playbook. And a lot of it is made possible by Jokic. But it's not like Bam is a non-passing 5. He's not Jokic,
of course.
but he's capable at that 5 spot. He's capable of running stuff off pinch post. He's capable of, obviously, we know the dribble handoff stuff, high up on the floor. We have seen Bam, Jokic, high-low actions in the past. I just want to see more of it. I want to see so much more of it because this is, to your point, David, the way to unlock this team is to kind of create kind of a Serbian offense where everybody's moving, everybody's cutting, all these things. It's the stuff that Eric Spoelstra wants to do, but couldn't really do with the personnel. I think he has the personnel now. And part of that is Jimmy Butler being gone. Part of that is getting Norm Powell and having a real contributor at that other guard spot next to Tyler Herro, where they didn't really, it was sort of Kyle Lowry, Gabe Vincent on and off, and then, Drew Smith, who was he really an offensive factor? Was he more of just a defensive guy, a one-way player? And then the Terry Rozier experiment that obviously failed. Like having a guy at that guard spot like Norm Powell could obviously help them create more of an egalitarian offense because egalitarian offenses only work when everybody deserves to have the rock at different points. And I don't think that was necessarily the case with Miami's other guards. But going back to Nico here, having everybody sort of empowered and running that kind of system will help him. There was a play in that first quarter, going back to the high-low stuff, in the first quarter against Czechia here, where they ran essentially, it almost started to look like a Spain pick and roll where Jokic was going to set that back screen where and Nico had the ball up high, and then he kind of veers at the last moment, and it kind of just turns into a more traditional pick and roll with a different Serbian player. And then Jokic ends up popping out and gets the ball beyond the three-point line. And then Nico kind of like burrows his way into from kind of that mid-range area, burrows his way over toward the baseline, and then ends up getting like this seal on the smaller opponent player. And Jokic just lobs the ball over the top of the head of the Chechen guy. And Jokic, it was a great pass. Again, just a phenomenal pass made possible by Nikola Jovic. And then Jovic catches the ball and then just lays it up with strength. And to me, when you hear Nico talk about wanting to play bigger and punish smaller guys, that's what we're talking about. And to have a guy like Jokic be able to set him up for that. And then I tweeted the play out this morning. And to see the Chechen coach, just sort of his face afterwards, just being like, oh, kind of just rolls his eyes like, what can we do against that? I love that because obviously it was Jokic making it possible, but Jovic was part of it. And Jovic was the guy that they also couldn't defend on that play. And seeing another coach have that kind of reaction to something Nico was involved in was really cool.
I'm just so enthused to see an increased level of physicality from Nico. We know about the weight gain. He's put on more muscle mass, etc. But we're also seeing it manifest in a very positive way. Like he's using his physicality in a way that I don't think we've ever seen from him in the NBA game. And that he's at this point now, he's still young, obviously. So there was always time for him. You've made the point many times. Development is never linear. And we're starting to see that versatility tie into an increased level of physicality where he can absorb contact, where he can push through and still draw a foul, and maybe he still finish through traffic, because I think he's just at that point where he's feeling much more confident with it. He's never been necessarily lacking in confidence, but I think it's all tying together in a very good way. And the fact that they're feeding him directly adds to that. Now, I also want to touch on a point that you made earlier about him missing those threes. And obviously with Spo, we probably would have seen him get an early hook. But I wonder if now that might be different. Do you think that with Norm Powell and Andrew Wiggins presumably in the starting lineup, that might be enough three-point shooting? And again, given that there's going to be better shooters throughout the roster, even with the loss of Duncan Robinson, do you think that's enough shooting where you could say, you know what, we're not going to rely on Nico to just be the spot-up shooter in the corner the way he has been in the past, and just kind of let him go to work, knowing that you're going to get that three-ball fall from somebody else on this roster or whatever lineup incorporates Nico into it? Because I think that's going to be the case. I think there's enough shooting now where if Nico's not hitting it, well, you know what? That's okay. You can do so many other things. You can run different plays to get him wide open, to get him the looks that he can now finish with more authority at the rim. And I think you'll still be able to have that balance offensively between the shooters and a guy like Nico who can just put the ball down and get to the hoop.
I agree. I don't think Eric Spoelstra is going to have a quick hook with Nico based on the three-point shooting or not. And for the record, I don't think he necessarily had a quick hook with him last year. It's just that the injuries kind of kept him out of the lineup towards the final stretch of last season. But the Spoelstra doesn't have a choice anymore. They have 3 playable bigs on this roster. Nico is one of them. Right? Whether or not the 3 ball is going in or not, he's going to have to be out there getting minutes, starting, coming off the bench, whatever. But and especially after the trade of Haywood Highsmith, right?
Yeah.
Highsmith is a guy who could have slotted in at the 4 in a crunch where you can play some defense, obviously hit the 3. He's not on the roster anymore. Neither is Caleb Martin. Like, these guys aren't who kind of could stretch into that spot, aren't on the roster anymore. He's got 3 playable bigs. Nico is one of them. He's going to have to play, and that I think is good because it'll help him play through some of those mistakes. But we have another question about a possible Nikola Jovic lineup where he is a starter. We'll talk about that. Plus, we are going to continue our 25 of 25 series after this here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you're put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. If you want to find out exactly where your money is being utilized or in what ways it's being utilized, well, that's what one of the great tools about Monarch Money is, that it helps you see clearly exactly where your money is going, whether you want to cut back on something or add to something else. Maybe it's a kind of investment that you feel good about. Monarch Money will help you organize your finances in such a way that you can maximize all of what you're worth and still continue to build on it towards something greater. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with Locked On NBA.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. We have a question from Ayad who writes in, this excitement for Jovic is cool. What do you guys think of a Tyler, Norm, Jovic, Bam, Ware starting 5, and what do you think it would look like? David, I think we've talked about a lineup like this before. To me, I'm in. There's 2 concerns that I have about this particular lineup, whether it's starting, coming off the bench, and to me, that's not as interesting as just seeing it as a 5-man unit. Now, one of the concerns that I have in terms of starting this group is you're starting all 3 of your bigs. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. It can't not work. It could work, but it would be some really kind of crazy rotation shuffling that Eric Spoelstra is jumping into after that. So that's my one concern there. But the other concern would be shooting and defense, or really defense, because I'm not as concerned with the shooting because Tyler and Norm and Jovic and Ware are all decent. And Bam, by the way, shot really well as a starting power forward. He shot like 40% from 3 last year after making the switch. But defensively, this only works where you're basically taking Wiggins and his defense out and replacing Nico. Right. This only works if Norm Powell in particular is a good wing defender, which I don't know. As good as he was last year with the Clippers, I wouldn't qualify him as a good wing defender last year. It's been a few years since Powell has been a good wing defender, although we saw it when he was playing for the Raptors during the 2019 finals run. You need to see that. Norm has to be like a legitimately good wing defender, because if he's not, then there's not a player in that lineup who can guard the best perimeter player on the opposing team. That's where Wiggins slots in. And I think that's why he's so useful in that starting lineup. But it's an interesting lineup for sure, and one that I would love to see.
I think your first point, though, is what really dictates why you can't utilize that lineup. You can't utilize all three bigs available on your roster all at once. And you're going to have games where one of those players, if not multiple players, are going to be out due to injury. You're going to have foul trouble, too many X factors where somebody might have to play a significant more amount of playing time. So I would rather see a lineup of Bam and Nico rather than Nico, Bam, and Ware. And I don't know how that would work necessarily. You'd be basically putting Bam back at the center position, and we can see rotations like that. I think that's a better lineup because then that's a better balance. But I like the idea of having those three bigs out there because that's tough to contain with so much size, and you've got versatility across the board. I mean, in theory, you have a 5-out offense too, where you have all 5 of those players capable of shooting the three, and that's something that I don't think Eric Spoelstra has had before, unless he's gone really small with like PJ Tucker or something along those lines. And just it's very different than what we've seen available to Eric Spoelstra. You know that he loves tinkering and playing around with these different permutations, and I think the versatility on this year's roster is going to be a hell of a tool for a guy like Spo to kind of incorporate and do different things, assuming again that we see Norm become more of a consistent defender, I think, for long stretches of time.
This is our 25 of 25 series, looking back at the top 25 Heat players of the last 25 seasons. Each episode, we'll be taking an in-depth look at every player who made the list, as voted on by us and our Locked On Heat Insider community, through the lens of what made them a definitive part of the franchise's history. At 17, we talked about Ray Allen's lasting legacy that goes beyond the Game 6 shot. At 16, we have another former Celtic, a player quietly ahead of his time, and a Locked On Heat guest who believes the Heat would have beaten the Warriors in the finals had they made it in 2022. It is Antoine Walker. Antoine Walker's tenure with the Miami Heat was brief but impactful, highlighted by his role in helping the Heat win their first championship in 2006. Walker, a 3-time All-Star known for his years with the Boston Celtics, was acquired by Miami in the summer of 2005 as part of a massive 5-team 13-player trade, the largest deal in NBA history at the time. The Heat brought him to add scoring, veteran leadership, and versatility to a roster already led by Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne Wade. In his first season with Miami, Walker embraced a new role as a key contributor off the bench. While he had been a primary scoring option earlier in his career, with the Heat, he accepted fewer minutes and shots, focusing instead on spacing the floor and providing a needed offensive jolt for stretches, especially when D. Wade was on the bench. While his production could be described as streaky, Walker was particularly valuable against the Mavericks in the 2006 finals when he averaged a double-double as a complimentary scorer who helped space the floor as D. Wade dominated. His contributions helped Miami rally from an 0-2 series deficit to win 4 straight games and secure the championship, cementing Walker's place in Heat history. In Miami, Walker helped redefine his own reputation. The 6th pick in the 1996 draft, Walker was known earlier for his volume shooting and signature shimmy celebration. In Miami, he played with more discipline under Pat Riley, at least for a time. This shift silenced critics who doubted his ability to be part of a championship team. Walker played one more season with Miami in 2006-2007, but the team was swept in the first round of the playoffs. And in October of 2007, among questions about his conditioning and declining production, he was traded to the Timberwolves, marking the end of his Heat tenure. Despite only 2 seasons in Miami where he averaged just 10 points and 5 rebounds, Walker's role in delivering the franchise's first title and a knack for taking and making big shots when they mattered makes him one of the most memorable players of the last 25 years. David, when you think about Antoine Walker's 2 years in Miami, what do you think about?
A tough one. I don't know that there's any one thing that I can consider. I think it's just the fact that he was a legitimate 3-point threat out there at a time when the 3-point shot wasn't necessarily as important to championship success. I mean, we saw a Pistons squad just a couple of years earlier that didn't really rely on the 3 ball. I mean, you get the occasional shot from Chauncey Billups. Maybe even Rip Hamilton was more of a mid-range shooter than anything else, even though he was constantly on the go. But they didn't really have that, a need for somebody to stretch the floor the way that you do in today's game. And yet there was Antoine putting up shot after shot, never shy about letting it fly, and just always providing that kind of reliable threat. But he was such a fun player to watch. I really didn't care for his game too much in Boston, but then once he donned a Heat jersey, it's like, okay, I could see what the buzz is about, because he really did add a different kind of, I don't know, just cockiness, fun, There
Yep.
was the workman-like attitude by so many other players on the roster, and then there was Antoine Walker. To me, one of the signature plays was him being fouled, knocked down to the ground, and looking at the camera and letting the shimmy fly while he's still flat on his back. I mean,
Classic.
that takes some chutzpah right there. If you're
Yeah,
gonna
it
let
is.
the shimmy go and you're still on your back, I mean, I love it. That was just a great play for Antoine.
Yeah, he's part of the all overconfident team in Heat history, right?
Him and Dion Waiters leading the
Him,
charge.
Dion, Mario Chalmers. For the maybe a slightly younger Heat fan that remembers like Chalmers and Dion Waiters, it's really Chalmers, and might not remember Antoine Walker. He was
Yeah.
kind of Mario Chalmers before Mario Chalmers. Not they didn't play at all. They didn't play like alike. They weren't in the same position, but just in the sense of just irrational confidence all the time, willing to take every shot at any moment, and very frustrating for fans because there'd be games where he looked like the second best player on the team, and there'd be
Yes.
games where you're like, get this guy off the floor. Like he can't make a shot, and he keeps taking them, and it doesn't matter. And I just remember, like specifically for me growing up, I couldn't stand Antoine Walker because he was so streaky, and Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal were not. And it was just every other night I was like, why? This is the guy we traded for. Like, why is he just looked like such a putz out there in one game, and in another game it was just like, I can't believe we traded this for this guy. This is amazing. How did we get this guy? And it's just I remember specifically my dad being really frustrated. I think part of it too was that he was a former Celtic, and so there was already like kind of a bad taste in your mouth. It was kind of walking into a restaurant that you didn't like, and then getting served a dish that you did like. It was like, I don't want to like this, but I kind of like it. So look, I at the end of the day, you grow an affinity for Antoine Walker, and now I love Antoine Walker because he was a guest for Unlocked on Heat, and he's a nice guy. But let's get to our where he ranks on our panel here. The highest that Antoine Walker ranked was 16. The lowest he ranked, not ranked. I had him 16. Another voter had him 16. David, you had him 19, so right in this range.
Right.
The reason he's here, though, this is a weird ranking. There was a lot of people that didn't rank him at all. And I do think that we're hitting a specific part of Heat history where because his tenure was so short and because he doesn't really have a defining moment, if you weren't watching the Heat that year, you really don't. And I don't even, I'm like, this isn't like an old man get off my lawn thing. This is like, it's impossible for you to understand his impact if you weren't watching the Heat in 2006. Because you mentioned this before, the floor spacing thing with him was huge. This guy was very much ahead of his time in terms of a versatile forward who played the 3 and the 4 spot, hit the 3 and hit threes at such a high volume that teams were like, oh, we have to guard this guy out there. That 2006 Heat team, to me, was one of the more modern championship teams because it was a team that really did utilize spacing around their 2 stars, right? It was, you think about ways teams want to get built today, it's 2-star players and space the floor around them. And guys like Antoine Walker, James Posey, Jason Williams, those guys space the floor around D Wade and Shaquille O'Neal. And that's not made possible if Walker isn't able to do that from the 4 spot. And there wasn't a lot of guys like that at the time.
No, and his ability to bring the ball up, initiate offense, like he was a point forward. Like you could really run a lot of fast break opportunities with him because he was just so deft at being able to bring the ball up, and he could dribble like with skill at his size. And he, again, most of the time, if he was wide open, he'd let it fly. Sometimes for a good shot, sometimes not so much. But remembering what he brought there, I know about those kind of frustrating inconsistencies and why fans were so frustrated. It was mostly at the defensive end because he just wasn't, again, that kind of stalwart defender that you need at the time. And then there were those games where his shot wasn't falling. But you just had to take the good with the bad because you knew what you were giving in. And then you had such a great balance between him and James Posey. Posey, another guy who could stretch the floor, but you knew you were going to get that great wing defense from him. So it was this really good combination. The two of them together would have been a perfect NBA player because you had the style, the pizzazz, the three-point shot, and also that kind of wing defense. Posey couldn't really do much else. He could hit the 3, and you knew he was going to defend the heck out of a player on the perimeter. Other than that, there was not much that you were going to count on him for. Antoine, conversely, could do it all, but you weren't going to get much offensively from him. So it was just a really nice balance, and you knew you could put him out on either times. Like when you needed a big shot, though, Antoine was there. He always lived for those moments, and he was very, very good in those senses. And I think that was what kind of endeared me to him, and just being endeared him to me is that watching him play with that kind of pizzazz and be able to contribute to championship success, because I think he was a bigger factor than a lot of people remember.
We get a trivia next, plus our biggest sliding doors moment for Antoine Walker. So I got to admit something. I could only come up. We usually try to do 3 questions for trivia. I could only come up with 2. I couldn't find anything for Antoine Walker in terms of his Heat tenure. There's just not a lot there. So if we're going to figure out a way to make this point system work, because I feel bad because I'm taking away an opportunity for you to earn a point because I couldn't come up with 3. So we'll figure this out. But first trivia question. Antoine Walker was traded to the Timberwolves in 2007. Which player headlined the package that the Heat got in return?
Wow, that's a great question.
Oh, I thought that was the easy one. I was trying to be nice with at least one easy one here.
In 2007, who they got back from the Wolves? I don't remember at all. I don't remember the deal. I just remember at the time that Antoine, I think that 2006, 2007 squad was just so bad, and Shaq kind of forced his way out. And, yeah, they really were. The highs at 26, and then everything kind of just fell apart the following season. Alonzo Mourning got hurt. Gary Payton was forced into retirement.
It was health, right? They kind of Shaq's conditioning was a question after that year. Antoine Walker's conditioning was a question after that year, and that's ultimately why he got traded in October. I think it was after preseason or during preseason that he got traded. It was just like Pat Riley just had enough with it. Ricky Davis was the answer.
Oh, I thought it was Mark Blount for some reason.
So he was part of the trade.
He was part of the trade. I don't know why
Ricky Davis was
Blount.
the headliner. Yeah,
the headliner.
If you had said Mark Blount, I would have given you the points.
Okay, Ricky Davis.
Next question.
Yeah.
Antoine Walker played with 9 NBA players on his final Kentucky team. Again, I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with his Heat tenure, but I was struggling to find anything. Walker played with 9 NBA players with his final Kentucky team. Name one of them.
9 players. Samaki Walker? No, no. Okay. God. God, for blanking on it for some reason. There was Tony Delk?
Tony Delk. There you go. Boom. He was a senior when Antoine Walker was a sophomore. Nice job.
Okay.
Tony Delk, Walter McCartney, Derek Anderson, Ron Mercer, Mark Pope, Jeff Shepard, Wayne Turner, and Nazir Muhammad all played on that Kentucky team.
Naz Muhammad. Yeah, I was thinking Ron Mercer. That was the guy that was always like a talented wing player that never really lived up to all the hype that people expected him to live up to. So, yeah. Interesting. A lot of depth there. I must say, this isn't a trivia question, and I'm not asking for a point here, but I just love, and we always have to reference it when we talk about Antoine Walker the way we do, the greatest quote perhaps in NBA history. Why do you shoot so many threes? A reporter asked him, and his answer, because there are no fours. I don't know if I didn't take the time to look for it, and I wonder whether or not it's apocryphal or whether he actually did say it or he's just attributed to him. I want to believe that he did say it. And
he said that with Boston when he was in Boston
with the Celtics,
yeah.
But it kind of sums up the idea again. Like a guy his size is like, "What? Why are you out on the perimeter? You should bull your way into the paint. You should do all these things." Like, what? I can shoot it out here and not get contact and make my living that way. And he made a lot of money. And unfortunately, he's also the subject of a very unfortunate documentary regarding the loss of finances for his career and things of that sort. But here's
it underscores the irrational confidence part of it, right? Like his irrational confidence teammates, Mario Chalmers and Dion Waiters, you could easily picture them saying that same quote, like easily.
Oh, yeah.
It's all sort of in there. Let's breeze through our recurring segments.
Wait, here's a trivia question for you.
Oh yeah,
sorry. Okay. What G League team did he play for after his NBA career was over?
So I just had looked this up. Was it Rio Grande?
The Idaho Stampede.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, he tried to make a comeback in 2010, which brings us to our recurring segments. The first one is a sliding doors moment, a what-if moment that could have changed the way this player is remembered for better or for worse in Heat history. I go back to 2010 when he was trying to make his comeback. He did go to the D League, played for the Idaho Stampede. Oh, I should have just looked at my notes. I had it written down right here. What if he had re-signed with the Heat in 2010? What they weren't quite at the point in that summer. That was obviously the summer that LeBron, D-Wade, and Chris Bosh signed. They got Mike Miller that year. They brought back UD. It was a year or two before they started reaching out to like the Greg Odens and the Michael Beasleys for some of these like buy low, like low risk, high reward type guys.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, like, what if they did that with Antoine Walker in 2010? Just like, hey, we're familiar with your game. You're a veteran. Come in. All you have to do is just hit shots around LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh. When he was making his comeback in 2010, what if he was part of that run that at least for a year, at least made the finals? And instead of being a one-time guy with the Miami Heat, what if he had like this second stint in Miami? Whether he won a championship or not, would have been part of the greatest era of Heat basketball. And he would have been, and by definition, would have been part of 2 of the 3 greatest Heat eras of Heat basketball. I wonder what that would have done to his legacy, if anything.
That's a great point. I never even considered that because it just felt like he was so far removed from the league after that.
He was.
He never
played in the league. Yeah.
No, out of shape and older. I mean, it's not easy to.
Yeah, he
work
played
your
just
way
one
back.
year after he got done in Miami. He played that 1 year in Minnesota, and that was it. He was done at 31 years old. He was out of the league.
Wow, that's unfortunate. It would have meant a lot, I think, for Heat fans to kind of welcome him back. And who knows, maybe he would have had an X factor in some kind in the NBA Finals against his former team, the Dallas Mavericks. So I know he did play there.
Maybe they were an Antoine Walker away from winning that first one. It's interesting. Is he jersey worthy?
I think so. I think he
really?
kind of have to. I think so. I think Antoine Walker, that's a deep cut. That's a guy who gets it. That wearing that jersey, that's somebody who loves to have fun.
What a weird jersey do you have from that 2016? That's a guy who likes to have fun. I love that. That's hey man, let's go get a beer. That guy, how did you know?
Yeah, absolutely. He'll offer to buy you a beer. It's like, you like Antoine? I'll get you a beer. It's like, yeah, that's right.
All right. Screw it. I had no, but you convinced me. I'll go yes on this one. Does he pass the Eddie Jones test? I'm gonna go no on this. I don't know where, as much as I like prime Heat Antoine Walker, maybe he can come off the bench as a backup 4. I still think the starting lineup is Bam with Ware and Nico coming off the bench. I'm just not really sure where Antoine Walker fits in. Like, he could be, the 10th or 11th guy on the roster, but I don't really consider that as passing the Eddie Jones test.
No, it's tough because I think if you're looking at just his 2 years with the Heat, as good as he was, I don't know that he necessarily stands out anyway. And we've talked about it before, the kind of across the board mediocrity from the Heat's bench. And I think you have far more talented, versatile players available. So I don't know that you necessarily.
And younger, right? Like, that's the other part of this too. Like, Walker was 28, 29 when he joined Miami. The Heat are leaning a little bit younger right now. So it's like, do you even want to be taking minutes away from some of these younger guys? How does it feel
that like he was over the hill and he was still so young at that point?
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's
how
very
old was he
different.
when he came into the league.
I don't know, probably 20.
Must have been like 19.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He must have been younger, I think.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Versus pin this player against the player who came before him. Ask if we got it right. Ray Allen was here before him. I had Ray Allen one spot higher, so I have to go no here. Honestly, you screwed this up with your not ranking Ray Allen. Like, Ray Allen would have ranked higher than Antoine Walker, and I think he should have.
Yeah, I did. I messed it up. I copped to it. It's fine. I don't know. I just, you know what? I brought up the same point yesterday. It's the vibes, man. Like Ray does not pass the vibes check. Like, he was just so serious and so severe in his personality. It's like, I just came here to do my job kind of thing. And Antoine's like, I've got a job? Great. I'm going to shoot threes and have fun. I'm going to get drunk as hell. That's, I'm going to do my thing.
I'm going to be out of the league in 2 years.
But damn, I'm going to enjoy it.
Right.
That's kind of why I put him on the list.
Here for a good time, not a long time. I like it.
Exactly.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen today. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast where there is no offseason. I am hosting this week along with Matt and Hayes to keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.